Chemicals can do some pretty crazy things. Here are the top 10 insane chemical reactions. Number 10. The Black Beast, sugar and sulfuric acid. When sugar and sulfuric acid are combined, they create a black beast. And although the result of this chemical reaction is spectacular, this chemical reaction is actually one of the simplest around. When sulfuric acid is added to sugar, the sugar basically dehydrates. The sulfuric acid essentially gets rid of the water in the sugar. The process is called an exothermic reaction. The black, monster-like beast that grows from the container is a result of heat, steam, and sulfur oxide fumes. And apparently, this reaction not only creates a cool-looking monster, it also creates a sweet smell similar to caramel. Number 9. The BZ reaction, bromine and acid. The Belousov-Zhabotinsky reactions, or BZ reactions, refer to any number of chemical reactions that involve bromine and an acid. And although it can be very easy to trigger, the Belousov-Zhabotinsky reaction is an extremely complicated chemical reaction that is far too difficult to explain here. It basically involves the autocatalytic reaction of bromine acid, which then reacts with other things in the solution. This causes the reactants to oscillate in time. The reaction produces a pretty cool color-changing substance that looks as though the substance itself is somehow alive. Number 8. Hot ice, vinegar and baking soda. Hot ice is a crazy chemical reaction that occurs when clear vinegar is combined with baking soda. Vinegar is heated and then the baking soda is slowly added. These two ingredients, when combined, form sodium acetate and carbon dioxide gas. The sodium acetate is created when the vinegar boils and leaves a thick white substance. The substance, or sodium acetate, is then reheated over a double boiler, at which point it becomes liquid again. When the liquefied sodium acetate comes in contact with something else, it crystallizes with the release of heat and forms cool-looking crystallized patterns called hot ice. Before we move on, be sure to subscribe to Daily Top 10s with notifications on so you don't miss any of our videos. Number 7. The Cool Can Explosion, can of Coke in liquid nitrogen. Sir Martin Polyakov, a chemistry professor from the University of Nottingham, is known for experimenting with chemical reactions. So, when he wondered what would happen if he put a can of Coke into liquid nitrogen, he decided to film his experience. Now, he expected the can of Coke to freeze, given the cold temperature of liquid nitrogen. But he was pretty surprised when the can of Coke completely exploded. He explains that the CO2 in the Coke was not able to freeze fast enough, but that the liquid in the can did freeze. Frozen liquid expands, so the frozen liquid in the can expanded faster than the CO2 could freeze. This forced the CO2 to escape in an awesome explosion. Number 6. The color-changing copper and nitric acid. Copper is a pretty common metal, but it's not normally known for its reactive traits. But when nitric acid is added to copper, the reaction creates a beautiful and brilliant color. Normally, copper does not react with dilute acids, but nitric acid is not like other dilute acids. Nitric acid has an oxidizing agent, so when copper is combined with nitric acid, the two react with each other and produce a crazy and colorful chemical reaction. During the reaction, the copper becomes oxidized. This allows copper nitrate salt to form. Copper nitrate salt is a deep blue color, which is why this chemical reaction has such a stunning appearance. But the reaction also forms copper nitric oxide, which causes the solution to bubble while the reaction is taking place. It is a beautiful chemical reaction and can even be done with a commonplace copper penny. Number 5. Elephant's toothpaste, hydrogen peroxide and potassium iodide. When hydrogen peroxide is combined with potassium iodide, a strange chemical reaction occurs. The reaction is whimsically called elephant's toothpaste because the reaction spews out what looks like toothpaste that an elephant would use. The chemical reaction is also sometimes called the marshmallow experiment, given the fluffy appearance of the product. Elephant's toothpaste is a popular chemical reaction and is often shown to children who delight in the odd toothpaste that's formed. But what is happening during this strange reaction? Hydrogen peroxide is mixed with dish soap and then the potassium iodide is added. The hydrogen peroxide quickly breaks down into oxygen. The oxygen produced is huge in volume, so the oxygen forces its way out of the container very quickly. But because there is dish soap, the oxygen gets trapped in bubbles, causing a foam-like substance, or elephant's toothpaste. Number 4. Fake snow, sodium polyacrylate, and water. When sodium polyacrylate is combined with water, it creates a highly absorbent gel-like substance. The coloring and consistency of this substance is often likened to snow, which is why this chemical reaction is sometimes called the fake snow reaction. Sodium polyacrylate can hold onto water molecules, so when water is added to it, it absorbs the molecules through a process called osmosis. The absorption is quick, and the sodium polyacrylate expands at an alarming rate. The reaction instantly transforms the liquid water into a gel-like substance. The gel-like substance is fairly firm, and from a distance, it does resemble snow. Sodium polyacrylate's ability to absorb water is unparalleled. In fact, sodium polyacrylate is so absorbent that it can actually absorb 800 times its own weight when mixed with distilled water. For this reason, sodium polyacrylate is used in situations where high water absorbency is required, like in diapers, for example. Number 3. The Briggs-Rauscher oscillating clock. This chemical reaction is very rare, as it is one of the only oscillating chemical reactions. And due to its complexity, the chemical reaction requires quite a few ingredients. The first is a diluted mixture of potassium iodate, sulfuric acid, and malonic acid. The second is a mixture of manganese sulfate monohydrate and starch. And the final ingredient is diluted hydrogen peroxide. When all of these chemicals are combined properly, they create an insane reaction that almost looks surreal. The reaction is a visually stunning display where colored tornadoes seem to randomly appear. At first, the mixture appears to be one solid color, but then the color changes in a flash and reveals a small swirling tornado inside. Of course, the tornadoes and the changing colors are the result of a very complex chemical reaction. But complex or not, the reaction itself is both hypnotic and unusual. Number 2. The explosive cesium and water. This chemical reaction is not for the faint of heart. When cesium comes in contact with water, the reaction is unlike anything else. Cesium is a metal that reacts very quickly with water. In fact, the reaction is so quick that it resembles a mini bomb blowing up, complete with sparks and billowing white smoke. The chemical reaction is exothermic, and the two chemicals combine to create cesium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. But unlike other chemical reactions, which can be slow-going and progressive, this reaction happens in the blink of an eye. It is also a very violent reaction. In fact, the reaction is so violent that if water and cesium are combined in a glass container, the sheer force of the chemical reaction can instantaneously shatter the glass. This highly explosive chemical reaction is a blast to watch, but this chemical reaction should only be done under highly controlled and supervised conditions, as the explosion can be dangerous. Number 1. The Pharaoh's snake, calcium gluconate and heat. This insane chemical reaction takes place when calcium gluconate is heated. Also known as the Pharaoh's snake or black snake fireworks, there are a lot of variations of this chemical reaction. The Pharaoh's snake can be created with a variety of chemicals, including mercury thiocyanate. But some chemicals are rare, expensive, and highly volatile and toxic. So the most common and safest way to make a Pharaoh's snake is by combining calcium gluconate with fire. Tablets of calcium gluconate are essentially set on fire, allowing a snake or series of snakes to rise from the ashes. To get the biggest, most impressive black snakes, lots of tablets of calcium gluconate are piled together. And while the calcium gluconate needs an initial fire to ignite it, eventually the snake becomes self-burning and can grow for quite a while. This bizarre chemical reaction that creates snake-like tentacles to grow right before your eyes is actually not that complicated. Calcium gluconate, when heated, breaks down and forms calcium oxide, carbon, water vapor, and carbon dioxide. The water vapor causes the carbon and calcium oxide to froth, and this froth pushes out ash. This frothing and ash is what you are seeing when the snake grows. Oddly enough, these snakes are actually a type of firework, although they do not explode or give off sparks like a typical firework. But like common fireworks, this chemical reaction is a pleasure to watch. The crazy snake-like creatures that grow from the reaction between calcium gluconate and fire has earned the Pharos snake the #1 spot on this list of top 10 insane chemical reactions.